Right, and so the next bit, as you can imagine, this usage, this relief is really for people who are generally using their home purely for reasons to do with, if you like, just living in, as opposed to business. Now, again, if you remember that you do have allowances, so to speak, for business use. As a sole trader, you can apportion a certain element of business use and then deduct that. And then I think the argument really again by HMRC, or I'm sure the argument again by HMRC, is that you're already gaining a benefit there. So in effect, this PPR exemption is purely for home use. Otherwise, it's business related. So really, it's just not available, and we have to allocate it based on that initial allocation. So that's something to always speak to clients about, that this is something HMRC will remember. The fact that only the element to do with private usage is given this PPR. So for example, it says Noel owns a house for 18 months. A third is used exclusively for business purposes, and he makes a gain of 450. So he is so if we're looking here, he has technically, you would say, well, you would want him to, you would say, well, 18 months. Well, only a bit available for private use, if you like. So therefore, 2/3 of this gain. So the gain is for 45,000. So only 2/3 of this gain really is PPR allowed, because that's the gain relating to the private use. So 2/3 of that 45,000. 2/3, 15, that's 30,000. So that's allowed, and 15,000 is disallowed, and this is a chargeable gain. Yeah, so 15,000 is allowed. So this is that's the fundamental issue here in terms of learning. The next bit here is that it is possible that you've been away from your house, and one of the reasons you've been away, if you like. So these are little rules that you need to kind of remember. But so you can gain this thing called letting relief. So the argument here is you're away from your house and you've let it out. So I mean, as you can imagine, it is occupied. It's just not occupied by you. You are paying rent. You have you're paying income tax on that. On that rental, if you like, whilst you're away, you've declared it as income. So it's okay that the HMRC are like willing to allow you that benefit. And so what we literally do is, remember, all we're trying to do is make that the time you let it out for, it becomes in effect deemed occupation. We're just trying to make it deemed. We're trying to find as much time for you to occupy so that we can deduct that. So this, I believe, this question, example 3 is literally the same question from example 2, and just to kind of highlight exactly the same question, but just to highlight what's happened here, it says that if calculate the chargeable gain arising if Celia had let the property to tenants from the 1st of January so to the 31st, so for 12 months. So we're saying that out of this, you remember that we had this kind of, like I said, this scenario from the first video where we had 1st of January. I asked you to take away get the 18 months. Always try and get the 18 months on its own. 1st of July 2017 to the 31st of December 2018. That's 18 months. And what we see here is that you let it 1st of January 2015 to the 31st of December 2015, and then we have the 1st of January 2016 to the 30th of June 2017. So what are we saying here? The problem, of course, is to do with this bit, isn't it? This is what we couldn't allow. So we had the 12 months, of course, from here, and then we had, of course, the what do we have here? 1st of Jan, 18 months from here. So what we're really trying to say here is that what they're telling us is you can deem this as well to be occupiable. given certain restrictions of it has to be the lower of 40,000 and this thing ultimately. So what am I saying? Let's see where we're going. We're literally saying, listen, 12 months, consider now as deemed. So whatever that gain is, consider that, deduct that, consider that as deemed, if you like, pretty much. We're allowing you 12 months. So just taking you to the answers to see what that looks like in terms of consider it deemed or consider it as occupied. Consider that as occupied. Yeah, so what are we saying here? So what we're saying here is that 12 months, if we consider that as occupied, that is 12 months, of course, from 300 times the gain, 341,200, right? That is now considered deemed. So HMRC won't, well, of course, the more you let, of course, the greater this could potentially be, but there's a restriction. It says the lower of this max. It usually is the difference between these two, the max of 40,000. Imagine you had let it for, I don't know, 50 months. Definitely, right? This would be a sixth of this, which would take this into the kind of the 50-something, 60-something. HMRC are like, well, stop here. It has to be the lower of the thing itself and 40,000. So technically, the max they're willing to give you is 40,000. So you'd still have some chargeable gain to pay once it's more than 40,000, even though you had let it. But they're allowing you a ceiling of 40,000. Naturally, it would be, if you like, it'll be less than the actual relief because you can't turn the relief into zero. You don't even want to do that. They don't want to do that at all. So that's kind of the scenario with that. So that's letting relief. Again, it's really a matter of just doing questions to kind of see what's going on with that. But ultimately, you're trying to gain as much occupancy in your ownership to use against the gain, if you like. Cool, great stuff. And that is kind of the discussion on reliefs in terms of letting reliefs. I think what is good, I'll stop there so that it means I can start a new video on a new section of that chapter. Okay, great stuff. See you in the next video.